He blew this case right open. He blew it open.
A Reddit post Monday says the author saw the then person of interest in the Brown shooting and his rental car. Police released photos Wednesday of a person that officers wanted to talk to. Just an hour after those photos came out, investigators say the author, who they called John, came forward.
His testimony, had we needed it, would not only have been credible, it would have been persuasive. He was as outstanding a witness as I've seen.
During a police interview, John said he saw the suspect in the Barris and Holly building early Saturday afternoon. He described his clothes as inappropriate for the weather and followed the suspect out. John watched him approach his car, but kept looping around every time he saw John.
It's often something that somebody thinks is innocuous, but just is odd.
Criminal law expert David Siegel says any tip, no matter how insignificant it seems, has the potential to create big leads. Sometimes concerns over safety can lead to delays in cases like these, but he adds it's those perspectives that can make the difference in solving them.
So many of our actions leave sort of digital traces somewhere or information traces that can be followed up. That just that much of a lead can be really informative for law enforcement.
Now, we also reached out to the FBI office in Boston about that $50,000 reward for information. They said they couldn't say whether or not they paid it out or to whom. That was for privacy reasons. We also reached out to the original Reddit poster. He had made a previous statement Wednesday saying he had no plans to speak to the media.
Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, and his girlfriend have been flying around on his private jet. They just came off a podcast off Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife's podcast, while all these cases and investigations and shootings are going on. We had the Epstein files bungle with the whole missing minute footage of the cameras, the hidden cameras in the jail. We had the Charlie Kirk assassination bungle where they arrested the wrong guy like twice, and they said they found a gun, but it wasn't the right gun. There was just so much chaos and confusion around that. And here now we have the Brown University shooter, which the FBI hadn't had any real trace of for days now, apparently tipped off by a Reddit poster. Mike, what do you make of this? The FBI seeming to absolutely fail at their job under the Trump administration and Reddit coming to save the day.
I think it kind of reminds me of when Luigi Mangione was caught. They couldn't find him for days either. He was still very much at large, and then somebody at McDonald's found him. It's not uncommon for tips to lead to cases being solved, but it is just interesting how this FBI portrays himself as competent, as the best of the best, and Trump swears that he hires the best people. Meanwhile, like you said, Kash Patel himself has been seemingly aloof, doing all kinds of other things that are completely unrelated to these investigations. And that's not to necessarily say that he can't, go do something every once in a while, but it's also like, hey man, there's a manhunt in place. Like, what are you doing about it? And to see him on podcasts and whatnot is just discouraging to see.
Yeah, just back to the Charlie Kirk situation. The FBI came out the day of the shooting and said, we got him, we got the guy. And it was some like old white guy. It was the first guy they claimed they got. Then they came out and said, oh, whoop, never mind. He's still at large. Everyone be careful. And I think they said they caught another guy that was also not the right guy. And then that went on for a while. They found a gun, etc. And then the alleged shooter's parents are actually, I think it was the dad who ended up turning in his son. So, FBI totally, useless in that whole endeavor and investigation. And then back to something you mentioned, which is like Trump hires the best of the best. We got like the dynamic trio, if you will, with Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi. Bongino just resigned 3 days ago, just before the drop of the Epstein files. We have Kash Patel over here failing to do his job, as we've just outlined. And then we've got Pam Bondi over here who, claims to be the one to bring us the Epstein files, saying that she's got the client list on her desk. And then, a week later, what client list are you talking about? I never said a client list. And now she's, just released the Epstein files fully redacted. Almost no mentions of Trump in comparison to the emails that were leaked where Trump's names were all over those. It just shows you that Trump really does hire some of the most incompetent people. What he goes for is loyalty. He doesn't care about how good you are at your job, what your morals are, what your values are. It's all about how loyal you are to him. This is why Kash Patel got hired to be the director of the FBI, solely based on his credibility of writing a children's book about Trump. I mean, this is what he was known for before he became the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the United States of America. He wrote a children's book about Trump being a king. That was credibility enough, and Trump liked him, so he put him in charge. Dan Bongino, a podcaster, just resigned. Now he's going back to podcasting. It's just a testament to how clownish this whole administration is. And, I really wish we weren't in the position that we are, but we elected a clown, so we should expect the circus that we have at the moment.
100%. And Kash Patel in particular was also almost being kicked out of that circus because Trump was very worried about how Kash Patel was making him look. There were lots of reports about how Trump was considering giving him the axe and getting rid of him. And now that focus seems to be shifting to Kristi Noem from DHS, where she's apparently kind of under fire. And then also Pam Bondi previously was under fire from Trump after she briefed him about him being in the Epstein files. There was a lot of backlash and whatnot. And Trump even went to Truth Social to call her out and tell her, hey, we need to prosecute James Comey and Letitia James and blah, 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 which already is a very public display of, corruption, where you just have the president pretty much mandating his DOJ to go after his political enemies. And that right there is another example of a massive failure on the part of the DOJ, because not only did they appoint Trump's personal attorney, who is a real estate attorney, to become their first, this was her first prosecution case ever in a criminal case. Not only was that found to even be illegal to begin with and pretty much torpedoed the whole thing, but grand juries refused to indict Letitia James not once, but twice, because they retried the case again. And it's no matter what they do, there's always a problem with evidence. There's always a problem, or excuse me, not so much evidence, but like the technical aspects of how they make the filing. There's always something wrong with the processing of their cases. There's something wrong with like the appointments or the hierarchy of their cases. And then there's just pure incompetence in the case themselves, because the evidence that they bring forth is not enough to convict. And in addition to all of this, let's not also forget all the lawyers who resigned in droves from the DOJ. Some of their highest prosecutors resigned very early on because they knew this administration was pumping in bad ideas that are illegal in many cases. So for Dan Bongino to walk away from the FBI is definitely telling as well, especially because he was one of the people similar to Kash Patel that was all gung-ho about getting these Epstein files out. And then days before they release, he walks, especially after having very public backlash against the initial withholding of the Epstein files. And one final thing that I just want to say about the Epstein files too is we have to make people remember that these files could have been released at any time from the executive branch. They did not require congressional approval. They did not require congressional votes. Congress did not need to be involved at all. Yet Trump put all of the blame on Congress. Even for a time, he put the blame on the Congress Republicans at the very end during the shutdown. And he was saying, I don't know why the Republicans don't get this done, even though they specifically set up a situation in the Situation Room where they would bring in Republicans who were part of this petition to release the files and pressure them to remove their name from that petition. So there's very clearly coercion at play here. And, how can we trust this administration going forward when these people are either incompetent or they're doing things that are illegal or both?